What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I got a quick one for you. I got a little bit more news regarding Dolphins coaches. Looks like we are losing another person from the coaching staff, so yet more changes within the coaching staff. And it looks like quarterbacks coach Jerry Shaplinski is going to also go to the Giants, not just Patrick Graham. As it was previously reported, Patrick Graham was stolen from us, whatever. He was hired away by the Giants to be their defensive coordinator. So the same position that he had with the Dolphins, he's going to do for the Giants. So again, not any kind of a promotion or anything like that. It's the same exact position. He's just changing teams. So after the madness that happened in the Dolphins organization in year one, he decided to take a job with another team. And it looks like Jerry Shaplinski is also going to go to the Giants to be their quarterbacks coach, which is, and I've only seen one thing that was coming from Mike Garofalo. So I'll be looking out for more updates on that just to confirm it. But so far it looks like that's going to be the case, which is funny because there was a tweet from Travis Wingfield that says, Phins know what they have. The Dolphins are telling you who they thought was responsible for the surprising results this season. Which, real quick, everybody, again, so many people are framing it like this year was a success, which is absurd and ridiculous. But okay, I mean, if you want to, like, I'm cool with optimism, and I like to be optimistic, and I feel like this organization eventually will get turned around, but not as long as Stephen Ross is the owner, for sure. And definitely not, from my perspective, definitely not within Brian Flores' time as head coach, because there's too much chaos, too much turnover, too much instability, too little continuity, etc., 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 and then Stephen Ross is going to get impatient. Anyway, let's continue on, though. Protected Jerry Shaplinski, Ryan Fitzpatrick's coach, which, real quick, why would you even care about that? Like, why would you care to protect him just because he's the guy that that was coaching Ryan Fitzpatrick? Like, we already know what Ryan Fitzpatrick is. He's going to be the same thing almost no matter what. And he's also not the future of your franchise. So why do you care to keep a coach around for a quarterback that you know is not going to be the future of your franchise? Maybe he'll be here next season, but he's definitely not the future. Anyway, and then Josh Boyer, nothing short of a miracle working with the pass defense. I don't know about that, but okay. To ensure the most promising coaches stay in Miami. Yet, as we just got reports, and again, I will wait to, see if there's any other reports that confirm it, but so far from Mike Garofalo, Jerry Shaplinski is now also leaving the Dolphins to go to the Giants. Now, just one more quick thing that I want to mention, right? Because, look, and I really don't care. Haters are always going to find some bullshit to say, but back in the offseason, right, last offseason, when Flores first came in as the Dolphins head coach, as you guys know, if you watch my channel, I was vehemently against it, only really because I disagreed with firing Adam Gase to begin with. But when he first came in, I acknowledged his resume, and I even gave him credit for having put together a pretty, experienced, coaching staff that has a solid resume, that has a good pedigree to it, etc., right? But everybody, the haters would jump in and be like, oh, you just hate Flores, blah, blah, blah. Even though I was giving him credit for putting together a good staff, I was just also saying, look, we got to wait and see what happens. You can't anoint anybody to anything, etc., etc. And now that I've noted and spoken up and talked about, the hypocrisies of, him firing Pat Flaherty 1 week into training camp, most notably because Pat Flaherty wouldn't play Shaq Calhoun and Michael Dieter, and then he got fired for that. And then Brian Flores puts Michael Dieter in, who was hot garbage the entire season. So you could use that as another example of why and how he intentionally tried to put this team in bad position to win throughout the season and just like wouldn't take him out even. But then one of your better offensive linemen, Shaq Calhoun, continuously was put on the inactives list randomly throughout the season as well. So whatever, people can, and I've talked about it multiple times, but of course a lot of people just hate on me about it because they're fucking stupid and they don't want to acknowledge those things. But it is what it is. So, but I wanted to point out, so again, everybody was giving Brian Flores all this credit for, building this amazing coaching staff, right? Then what happens? We lose Jim Caldwell, which, to be fair to Brian Flores, was not his fault, in the sense that, you can't predict when somebody's going to have a health issue, because that's what took Jim Caldwell away. We still don't know if he's even going to come back or not. There haven't been any actual clear reports on that. But he had to step away because of health issues, right? But that is something you could at least take into consideration when you're deciding to hire an old dude. Nothing against Jim Caldwell, but it is something you can take into consideration when building your coaching staff, especially since a bunch of the guys on the coaching staff, or at least a few of them, like Jim Caldwell, were older guys. Pat Flaherty was one of them, but obviously got fired a week into training camp because he wouldn't play two rookies that he felt were not actually ready. But since that went against and look, I mean, if you don't think they're ready, you don't play them because you don't think they're going to give you the best chance to win. But that obviously went against the whole tanking philosophy that Brian Flores adopted because his owner, Stephen Ross, demanded it. Okay, but then, okay, you go on. We didn't have any more firings there for a while, but then the guy who got promoted to offensive line coach and who everybody was raving about after Flaherty got fired, Dave DeGuglielmo, he got fired at the very end of the season. Tony Oden is gone. Chad O'Shea got fired. Tiguan Underwood went to another team. Patrick Graham, now defensive coordinator, goes to another team just to fulfill the same role that he had here. And now Jerry Shaplinski, the quarterback's coach, is also gone. So again, more and more turnover in the coaching staff. And we haven't even begun touching the roster yet. The only thing that's happened that I've seen is just some future contracts signed, which is the extent of the practice players that we had. Again, a bunch of nobodies, perennial backups, practice squad players, etc., undrafted guys, etc., which is not necessarily a bad thing, and it's good to have those guys in camp. But again, you can't build an entire roster of undrafted guys and waiver wire guys and expect to, find gems out of every single one of them and build your team that way. It's good to bring in undrafted guys, etc., to find a gem or two occasionally, like once a year, when you go through the draft, but you can't expect to build your entire team that way. And there's going to be massive turnover, even if it's just because all the guys that are on injured reserve come back. Those 15 guys are going to need roster spots. Now, again, in training camp, there's 90 spots available, so theoretically they could keep everybody currently on the 53 and all those guys. But you're going to end up cutting a bunch of them somewhere, some way, somehow. Okay? There's going to be massive roster turnover. Next year's team is going to be super young, super inexperienced, not as talented. Hopefully they can hit on the draft, but we'll see. And it's, and then the coaching staff, then they're going to have to learn an entire new offensive system, an entirely new defensive scheme. And it's a disaster. I think it's a disaster. I thought it was a disaster from the very beginning. And I'm also tired of people just flip-flopping, the narrative and the story and the goals, etc., based off of, what day it is or what week it is or what's going on right now. No, you need to be consistent. And anyway, so it does look, I just got another report another alert that says Jerry Shaplinski is going to be going over to, let's see. Yep, so it looks like Jerry Shaplinski is going over to be the quarterback's coach of the Giants. So there you have it. That's what I got for you guys. More chaos, more turnover within the Dolphins organization, and we'll see. Look, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt as much as possible. I try to give them credit where it is due, which is few and far between. But I've been saying it from the jump. Stephen Ross is the biggest problem with this team, with this organization. He needs to sell it. He needs to get out of there because he can't make football decisions to save his life. He hit the reset button on a very promising team. The Adam Gase team, I don't care what anybody fucking feels about Adam Gase or whatever. He was unduly criticized, just like Ryan Tannehill. He had things going right. He had a good culture that was going right. His players knew that he was the boss, but he was also their friend. He didn't like signing the big name free agents, and he wanted to make sure to pay players in-house for performing. He wanted to build through the draft, and in fact had 3 really good drafts in his time. He had the integrity to tell Ross no, that he was not gonna tank. And if they were just given this year, unfortunately, there's no way I can actually prove it, but with the team that we had in 2018, if that team was given another opportunity under Adam Gase, one more season under Adam Gase to get healthy and to get another draft under their belts, I virtually guarantee they would have been at least far more competitive than they were this season, and could have even ended up in the playoffs. With Ryan Tannehill, Kiko Alonso, Frank Gore, Danny Amendola, Juwan James, Laramie Tunsil, Kenny Stills, Kenyon Drake. Could have had all these guys still. Could have had a talented team with good leadership. It's a good production, proven production, etc., etc., etc. Right? Minka Fitzpatrick. We could have had all these guys. We could have had a good team. Then you wouldn't have seen like Bobby McCain get played out of place and at safety and then subsequently get hurt, right? You wouldn't have seen all of this crazy massive disaster and turnover, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, before I continue on with some massive rant, you guys know how I feel about it. It was absolutely unnecessary. The first year under this current organization and regime has been an absolute disaster, and year 2 is already starting off as a giant fucking mess, even though everybody wants to sit here and talk about it like it's some fucking shining fucking pretty, glamorous thing that's going on, and that all of a sudden in 2020 this Dolphins team is going to be competitive, which is absolutely ridiculous. Again, hear me now, quote me later. 2020 and 2021 are not going to go as according to plan, and Brian Flores is going to end up getting scapegoated by Stephen Ross after about year 3.5, and then we're going to end up hitting the reset button yet again, and then we're going to be just in the same spot if Stephen Ross doesn't end up selling the team. Alright guys, I'm going to get up out of here. I hope you guys enjoy my videos, my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts for my videos. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Phins up.